Hey, welcome everybody to the first episode of Around the Table with South County Outreach. The one show where we take you on a journey deep into the heart of our organization's mission to combat poverty and uplift our community. And today we've got with us the Sherpa, our guide on this journey here, the one and only LaVal Brewer. Did I get that name right?
You did.
Okay.
Sherpa. Wow, I've never been called a Sherpa.
You're a Sherpa. You're going to take us up to the mountain and show us what's up there.
That's a lot of responsibility.
Well, yeah, I think you can handle it. Somehow I got a feeling you're the guy to do this here. So let's start with your journey. Before we get into South County Outreach and all that they do, let's talk about all that you've done. We were talking offline a little bit here. How did you get into this world of nonprofits?
Oh, fun. So I've always been a joiner as it relates to groups, right? Mm-hmm. So groups get together. I want to be involved. I want to be there and kind of want to help. Literally, one of my friends was reminding me the other day. He goes, remember when we were in high school, you never ate lunch?
I never ate lunch.
Yeah, I'm like, you never ate lunch. I'm like, yeah, no. He's like, you were always in some service club. Helping people out, doing something, selling raffle tickets.
I knew those kind of guys.
Yeah, that's kind of me.
I don't know that I was one of those kind of guys, but I knew those kind of guys. And I was secret. You kind of laugh, but you kind of secretly say, that's pretty cool that they do that. So we were talking beforehand. Yeah. You still got a group of buddies that you went to junior high with or elementary school. I do too. Friends that you've had for a lifetime. And you're taking one of your periodic journeys with them someplace here. You're all getting together and go somewhere. If I were to get them in the room and say, LaVal, he's the guy that's going to work in nonprofit, would they have all said the same thing, or would they go, no, he would have been a CEO or a fireman or astronaut or something? I don't know. Were you, was it that obvious this was your calling? This is the stuff you were going to do?
I don't even know if anyone thought a nonprofit existed.
Yeah. Why would you work for something where there's no profit?
Yeah. With them, they would say, this guy's going to be working with kids all his life. He's going to be, some type of camp counselor or something like that. So not knowing that camp counselors work for nonprofits on a regular basis. So yeah, I ended up working for the YMCA back in 1985, the Los Angeles YMCA, who kind of helped me understand how you do community work and work for them for almost 20 plus years.
You said you started in like the 80s, so you had to be like in high school or a kid or something.
I was 19. I was 18, 19 when I got my first YMCA gig as a driver and taking care of the kindergartners.
There you go.
Which is, if you ever take care of kindergartners, it's like little ducklings.
The last thing in the world I would ever want to do, trying to herd cats, keep them all going. I love kids, but I don't know, a whole bunch of them in one place and I'm responsible for them. I don't know.
You get a lot of laughs. Trust me, there's a lot of kicks and giggles and running noses. So so I ended up being the executive director for multiple YMCAs in Southern California and a national trainer of YMCA staff across the country, teaching them how to do good work and volunteerism and community development and fundraising.
And they do good work. By the way, I loved all their after-school programs. That's what kept, when I worked full-time, my wife worked full-time, and our daughter was younger. She'd go to school, then she'd go to the YMCA program afterwards, and that was wonderful. She learned a little something, she had a good time, and they took care of her until we could get there at 6 o'clock or whatever.
I know. Got their homework done, they got a little bit of snack, then someone knew they loved them, they were taken care of, and then, parents would come in and they could be able to pick up their kids and go and have dinner instead of picking up their kids, having dinner, and trying to do their homework at the same time.
Oh, my God. Absolutely. So shout out to the YMCA, that one program alone, worth it. All right, so you did that. Well, how did you leave? Why did you leave? You transitioned, you were a consultant, decided I can do this and help other charities along the way here?
Yeah, so I found myself at the end of my YMCA career. When I left, I had phone calls from YMCA CEOs across the country saying, why did you leave? And,
please.
And will you come to North Carolina? No, I'm not coming to North Carolina, primarily because my wife said there's no beach there.
There is a beach.
There is a beach there, but where he was calling from was the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Oh, no, none there.
So I did some consulting work, and then I jumped into another national nonprofit a couple of years later, still do consulting work with helping nonprofits and companies do organizational health.
And is that hard to do? I'm sorry to butt in, but I would think it would be hard to get good help when it's a not-for-profit. Does that attract all the top talent, or the people come out of business school saying, hey, I'm going to go do that, or they all want to go work for Goldman Sachs?
Well,
IBM.
it's while there's not profit, the profit just doesn't go back into your pocket like a business owner.
Right.
We run a $5 million organization, so it's not like we're a small nonprofit or small organization that has no money and nothing. We have some resources, we have assets, we have people. The difference is the profits don't roll back in. But to answer your question, no, it's not the area of choice for someone who wants to make a little bit more money than a nonprofit professional, but you can make a good living working at a nonprofit, and you get your soul. Now, here's the thing: you don't want to work. You don't want to
get your soul. You threw that in so casually there at the end. Yeah.
Well, you don't want to say, "Hey, I'm going to work over here, and I'm not going to have any soul, and I hate it. And when I leave this work, I'm going to go into nonprofit work." I think you should do that while you're doing your work.
And so many of us. I'm a man of a certain age. I'm in my 60s here. So many of my friends who are retiring are thinking about it. That's the next step. Now I'll do good stuff. I did the evil empire work for 20 years here. Whatever. I'm exaggerating, but I worked for something that was kind of soul crushing, maybe, or maybe wasn't totally fulfilling. We built it up. We did a great job. Now I'm going to do something worthwhile, whatever. But that comes at the end. Why can't it come at the beginning?
It can come throughout the entire process. We actually have a new team member on our team who has been a very successful professional, and he's working for us now for well less than what he should be making money for. But he's made his money. He's still in that age of work, and he loves the ability to give back to our local community.
Right. All right. So all these years at the YMCA, decided it was time for a change. You found your own gig, did some consulting, wandered around, tasted different fruit, different places here, and all of a sudden said, I'm going to go find another gig. Let's see if there's something out there that fits all of my skill and challenges me and gives me my soul back. How did South County Outreach come into the picture here?
Well, I found myself looking for a new leadership role. Get bored easily. I haven't been bored.
Don't get bored in the conversation.
Yeah, I haven't been bored. I haven't been bored for the last 4 years. So so we're not there at this point. But started looking for a new leadership role and called my good friend Robert Ming, who left this earth a couple of years ago from a plane crash.
Oh, sorry to hear that. Nice.
You know what? He's in heaven.
I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, he sure is.
He's listening today right now.
Well, I called him up and said, "Hey, is that job still open?" He says, "Are you interested?" And I said, "I am absolutely interested." And 4 weeks later, I had my interview, and 4 weeks later after that, in June of 2020, I know all of you remember some of that time back there.
Yeah.
I went into an organization that was leading the efforts around hunger and homeless prevention in South County, in the middle of the biggest crisis of hunger and homelessness we've ever seen in our lives.
Right. And hopefully the biggest one we'll ever see in our life. Hopefully it doesn't repeat and we have further versions of this, because that shook the country to its soul. It shook organizations to its soul. How do we do the work if we can't be together? How do we do the work if people can't come into our facilities and do things? That had to be a huge challenge. So you stepped into a role not only at a big time, but in an organizational challenge. Talk about that.
So yes, I didn't know anything about hunger and homelessness when I entered the role. At least I didn't think I did. But in reality, I've picked up a lot of nuggets along the way. That consulting gig gave me a lot of little nuggets along the way. Mm-hmm. So when I first got here in June, it was, how do we feed people without talking or touching them? Yeah. How do we continue to have our organizational values and beliefs exist when those organizational values and beliefs say don't get in within 6 feet of each other, and let's do everything outside. And
on Zoom, we're gonna feed people by Zoom. Yeah.
Well, and that was probably the toughest part when we were doing our homeless prevention work, which was around case management, helping people navigate through not being homeless. That was face-to-face work.
Right.
And we had to go from this face-to-face trust-based relationship to a Zoom-based or phone-based trust-based relationship, and still be able to help people get where they need to get to.
With people who are homeless or in danger of being homeless or trying to get out of being homeless, I wouldn't think they're all on the internet or on Zoom here.
Well, for us, we are mostly prevention of homelessness. So we're not the organization who is tackling those who are homeless at a high level. While we work with homeless families, homeless individuals, that's not our big big problem to solve. Our problem to solve is to keep people from becoming homeless.
From sliding into homelessness. All right, so let's talk about the purpose of the organization, and we'll give you your 5 minutes here to tell us who South County Outreach is. Give us the elevator pitch. Give us the commercial. Give us the view.
So the commercial. For us, we're a neighborhood organization started by Ray Havard more than 35 years ago, who recognized that his neighbors 35 years ago were hungry and that he needed to do something about it personally.
We didn't all recognize that 35 years ago.
We didn't, but it was there, and we could talk about how that came to be later on. Mm-hmm. But there are some indications, some policy changes that created the opportunity for people to have less money than they used to, or support.
Well, we certainly, I don't know, you'll talk about the different causes or sources of people getting to homelessness. Certainly when they emptied out all the, what we used to call them mental hospitals, one flew over the cuckoo's nest. We emptied those facilities out, where we put people who couldn't take care of themselves, and now what are they supposed to do? They're wandering the streets. They were supposedly nonviolent, but they're now homeless. They're outside.
Well, there's definitely that. Some of the other policy happenings that happened then was the reduction in actual support for food, changes in tax law. There are a couple of things that happened back in 1980 something that created some of the conditions that we're in today. Not intentionally, but just the conditions.
Because I think that's an important point to make. We somehow think this has either always been like this, or we don't understand how we got to this. I was just reading somewhere that, of course, homelessness is one of those crises that suddenly everybody's talking about. But it didn't happen overnight.
No, most people don't end up homeless overnight. And if they do, that's a critical condition. Something really bad happened.
Right.
So about us, let me just I'll pull this into that. Families argue, right? My wife and there are times when we disagree with each other. And when you think about families who argue, but then that argument turns into something not so pleasant, and then suddenly one of the members of those family, typically the female with the children, find themselves not living in their home without the income that they used to have and zero support. That doesn't happen overnight sometimes, but when it does happen, it could be a critical trigger for homelessness.
Yeah.
Where suddenly a mom who's trying to keep her kid in school, or kids in school, is living in their car, trying to stay in the neighborhood that they're in so their child has some normality to them, looking for places to eat, can't find a place to sleep, there's not enough shelter for them and their children. All of those issues create homelessness.
Wow.
Now, the issue that we're talking about here is around prevention, really is around those families who are able to stay in their home, whether that be the house that they purchased or the apartment that they rent, or whatever that may be. They still are struggling because of crushing poverty, low income, high cost of living, all of those issues, and in some cases a job that isn't going to get them the income they need, or the multiple jobs that cause them to just be exhausted at the end of the day.
Yeah, right.
They need some additional help. They need some support, and they're doing all they can to get there.
And so you're the outreach. Do you go find these people, or do they find you?
That's an interesting question. You're going to be hearing from Lauren Ruiz in a little while. We're going to be talking about some things, but one of the things we try to answer around that is, what is it? And it's multifaceted. Oftentimes it's a church, or 211, or a friend, a neighbor who says to someone, hey, they can help you over here. My wife often says, hey, someone on next door was talking about South County Outreach again today, telling someone who is looking for food service or food help for a friend, which is often for themselves.
Yeah, right.
Where to go
this
and where to
isn't
get
me,
help.
But I've got a friend who has a problem here. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that vulnerability is one of the things that we work really hard on. That's why our values of dignity and respect are so front and center, because when we make it easy for someone to access our services in a dignified and respectful way, which all nonprofits are trying to do, but we're uber on that, trying to make you feel like you're in a neighborhood, then people will be more vulnerable to lean in and come and get the services.
I can't imagine going through that. I can imagine being poor. I haven't been poor really, but my father grew up very poor. I hear stories of that. I can imagine sliding into a state, but what the cascade of things that happens when you do that, the car gets repossessed, the phone doesn't work, the kids need shoes, somebody's tooth is broken, and this, and just the overwhelming, is that what happens? It just sort of cascades and gets out of control from, we're not talking about people with necessarily drug and alcohol addictions who find themselves out of work, out of home or whatever. We're not talking necessarily about mentally ill, even people like I was discussing where they opened up the doors and said, go figure it out. You're talking about just my friends, my neighbors, my cousin, my kids, anybody who gets in a situation and suddenly it starts to spiral out of control and they can't control it.
Well, I can give you a personal story. So when at that consulting business I started, individuals in America say, hey, I can be whoever I want to be. I can start my own business. Well, starting your own business is not the easiest thing to do.
Oh.
And if you don't have
we
enough,
think it is.
We think it is. Right. So when I started my consulting business, we burned through all of our savings little savings we had to try to get this done. Mm-hmm. During that process, we had more and more bills coming at us that we just needed to deal with. I can tell you one of them was really interesting. It was a high school yearbook. $89, 2 kids. And so that's $160,
right?
On top of the dance and the dress and the camp and all these other things, which luckily and blessingly enough we were able to make through. But if it wasn't for my relationship with the high school principal at the time, and I just happened to mention, this is a real struggle. I got to buy these high school yearbooks. These are $89 each.
Right.
I go, I'm just having a hard time making it happen. He goes, LaVal, you're having a hard time? I'm like, yeah, I'm having a hard time. Starting this new business and trying to make it happen. He goes, you know what? I'm going to get you those yearbooks for you. And I'm just going to make it happen. And at the end of the year, those 2 yearbooks showed up in my kids' hands.
Wow.
And
because your kids don't understand why
right.
or how, or I got to get the yearbook and I got to get the shoes and the dance and the whole thing and whatever, the school trip or whatever else goes with it here. Yeah.
Right. So if you don't have someone who's kind of helping you through this, and I'm a business owner, I'm trying to make things happen. I'm doing the right things, paying my taxes, all those other things. And yet I'm still not making it. And, there was a moment in time where I thought maybe we should go to the food bank and food pantry and get some food because that might help. Well, I didn't have enough information at that time to even know that the food pantry existed in our neighborhood and where to go.
Right.
That's not the case any longer. We promote that we help people more than we ask people for money because the money will come, but the people who need the help, they need our team who's critically important to solving some of these problems and being a partner.
So let's talk about some of the programs, the work that you do. I'm looking at your website, South County Outreach. And you have ambitious goals. The first 3 I see is housing, food, and education. Let's take them in that order here. Housing. Do you help people find housing, get housing, where to go, get rental assistance, utility assistance, other things like that?
All those things. You're pretty good. You're reading out of my website.
Well, looking at the site's a good site.
My marketing person must be pretty awesome.
He is.
So yes, we're about helping people stay in their homes. So
that's got to be hard. I'm sorry I keep jumping in, but that's got to be harder than ever because the homes are incredibly expensive here in South Orange County or in Orange County in general.
Well, the homes to purchase are definitely hard, and that's causing part of the bottleneck here. If you're not moving up into another house and you're not getting out of your apartment. So if you're not getting out of your apartment, then that rent is going up considerably for you and for others.
Right.
And the apartment market is really small, especially in South County. It's 73% of all residents in South County are housed are in a home, not an apartment. So finding an apartment, staying in an apartment, keeping that rent affordable so that people can get there, having affordable units within South County or within Orange County.
I'm sure we'll talk about that in future episodes.
We will definitely do that. Because it's not about just making the rent low because we don't want someone to pay more money. It's about those who support all aspects of our country and our world who can't afford and aren't getting paid the level of money to afford a $2,500 one bedroom, one bath or a $5,000 4-bedroom, 2-bath home.
No matter how hard they work.
Right. And now you're working multiple. So we're trying to help people stay in their house by rental assistance, utility assistance, and then some education around financial management and literacy. And then we're going to be eventually getting into workforce development to help create more jobs and higher rates.
So that one surprised me. We'll do them out of order here. Housing, I get. There's a housing crisis. Affordable housing isn't very affordable, and there isn't much of it around, and there's a long waiting list for it. So I get that people are forced out of their houses, even though they're working really hard. They just can't make it. A crisis hits, a divorce happens, something, and suddenly they're unhoused here. Education, though. Is education part of this thing? You talk about financial literacy and job opportunities. Is it? Do people? I don't know how you talk to people. I'm in crisis. Don't talk to me about financial literacy. Just help me pay the utility rate now here. I'll figure out my problems later here. But then you're just perpetuating something. Yeah.
So that's true. So it's not that we need to teach people how to balance their checkbook. I can't tell you when people say, the kids these days don't know how to balance their checkbook.
I hear them all the time.
All right, and I look at them and I go, I don't even know where my checkbook is. So I'm not quite sure.
I don't write checks anymore.
Yeah, I don't understand why we're still talking about this. Right. But the conversation around we don't teach kids about management and funding their income or anything more. You know what? We never did.
Right.
We really never did. You know how you find out how to manage your money and how to grow your money? From your friends and your neighbors who tell you the stories, or from your parents who pass that down from the lessons they learned themselves.
My dad was a child of the Depression. He grew up extremely poor, went through the Depression, the real one. Go look it up, folks. There was one bigger than just the recession. And he came home that one time, and he was being raised by his grandmother. His mother died, and this is Detroit in the middle of winter, and the house is freezing. They used coal in those days to fire the furnace. And he goes downstairs. He says, "Grandma, there's no coal." She says, "I know."
Yeah,
I know.
Can't do it.
And he said, "I just quickly realized, don't ask anything more."
Which is the opposite of what we want to have happen. So, in our education program, it's not as big as we'd like for it to be, but it's a growing part of what we're going to do in the future. But here's how we do it. We do it in a couple ways. One, we do provide some financial literacy, and our partner there is Farmers and Merchants Bank, and they're
shout out to them. We've had what are the two brothers that run the
Dan
bank?
And Henry.
Yeah, we had Dan in here on one of our shows. Yeah.
Yeah, so they
get him to come back because he's a fascinating guy, like the third or fourth generation of running that bank, a true community bank here.
Yeah, now back to that YMCA days, they're big supporters of the YMCA of Long Beach. So we have the financial education where we come in, we teach them how to balance their books, how to save money, what does it mean for 401k, all those things, how to put that away. But at the same time, we also do that when we're talking to our homeless prevention families who are talking to us about their income and what they have so that we can pay their rent. And we start asking them, do you have a budget? And oftentimes people will say, yes, I have a budget. And what we realize is not that they don't have a budget. They know where they spent their money. A budget is where you tell your money to go.
Yeah,
where you say here's what's going to happen with my money. So many of us do not tell our money where to go or what to do because they've never been taught to do that.
Right. Just disappears, comes in and goes.
Right. You know what it is? It's balancing my checkbook. It is understanding what I spent my money on. And those are two very different processes. So our case managers and our team members spend not a lot of time, but enough time saying, hey, you really need to understand your money, how it's coming in and how much you're spending, and then make adjustments so that you can actually live through this process.
Do a show here called Closing the Wealth Gap. It's a financial planner and an African-American guy out of Long Beach who grew up in South Central and made a success of himself and is determined to go back in the community and teach, in his case, the community he came from. Why are you in this endless cycle? You make and you blow it, and you make and you blow it. He was a veteran and spent 20 years in the Navy, and he came out and he got almost bankrupt because he said, I just blew everything I had. I'm in the Navy. So somebody takes care of my food and my things, and suddenly you hand me a bunch of money, I just go blow it here. And there was no idea of saving or investing or getting out of that, work to pay my bills mentality here.
Yeah, I actually grew up in South LA myself. My kids still live in the house that my grandparents bought before I was born.
Wow.
Which, if I didn't have the understanding that I have now, it has appreciated, you can imagine, to a high level. It also is in an area that is being gentrified. Right. So I continuously get knocks on the door and cards saying, would you like to sell your home for a very high rate? And the answer is always no. right? The answer is no. Why? Because I don't need that money right now. What we need is we need that investment to continue to grow. We need to have that place for our family forever, so we never have to worry about
so many communities
ourselves.
though. We do a show with the Hispanic Chamber, and they're always talking about this. They had somebody from Experian come in, and just how do you create credit? How do you create savings? How do you build that into your regular thing? Many of us, particularly in marginalized communities, never had that experience. It's always paycheck to paycheck.
Yep, you got to learn it. Someone's got to teach it to you.
Right.
So it's housing, and we did education. We know we're supposed to do the education last. We brought in the front part. That's fine. That's good. Let's talk about food. So for food, it's really around making sure no one goes to bed hungry. And
you did, according to the website, this is a pretty bold claim. Our food program distributes over 700,000 pounds of emergency, not just non-perishable canned stuff, but fresh food to 6,000 residences every year.
Yeah, we're gonna surpass that number this year.
Wow.
And yes, so our market choice food program, food pantry, is like a scaled down Trader Joe's, where you can walk in, you get to shop like you're normally shopping. And yes, we have canned food, and we have macaroni and cheese, and we have spaghetti, and we have soup, but we also have frozen protein. We have fruits and vegetables. We have eggs, milk, and butter.
Do all of them do that? Because my perception is I'm a good Irish Catholic. We donate our canned goods to the canned food drive, and I somehow think all I'm giving them is stuff that I don't use or I bought, and I wonder why have I got this strange thing of beans or cans of squash or something here. And I think in my own life, I don't live off of canned foods. I got to supplement it with real fresh stuff too. And I somehow think pantries don't have the fresh stuff because it's going to perish. It's going to go bad.
Well, yeah, you got to have. So we have a pretty big operation. You've got to have the refrigeration. You need to have the trucks to pick up that fresh food and get it into space. You have to have a delivery method to get it out the door very quickly.
Yeah, it rots otherwise.
All those things, which includes buying supplemental area. So you can't donate milk and butter. Like you can't do a food drive and like, all right, bring us some milk and butter.
Right.
that doesn't work.
Bring in some more vegetables, and they're going to rot in 3 days here.
Right. So we have to buy those things in order for us to do what you exactly talked about. Make a nutritious meal. So I don't remember the last time I made a full meal out of my pantry.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right. Now I supplement the meal out of my pantry. So
I'll go get some soup. I'll go get some canned beans. I'll do something, but I can't live up. I could in an emergency, but I don't because it doesn't have the fresh, healthy aspect I want.
Right. My green beans don't come out of the refrigerator, out of the pantry. They come out of the can. They come out of the refrigerator either frozen or fresh.
Right.
And then they get sautéed with some garlic and some butter and salt and pepper, and then they taste delicious.
Right.
And they don't have the same sodium that a can has.
That's what I was going to say. All that stuff that keep it preserved. The preservative is mostly salt. All right. So you do this good work. You're passing out lots of food. That's not an easy operation. You're also helping people with housing assistance, and sometimes, what do? You help pay their bills or the utilities or their short-term support or whatever here, and then trying to teach them, once you get through this, let's figure out so you don't have to go fall back into this problem again. Let's find. You may even get into what? You're talking about job growth and opportunities, how to get a better job, how to make more money.
So we want people to stretch out on their own, right? We want people to help themselves. The last thing we want people to do is continue to be reliant on us.
Yeah, right.
That's not a sustainable system.
No,
and
for you or for them.
Definitely not for them. And it's hard for us.
Right.
So now we know we're going to be in business for a while. And
apparently you've been for what, 35 years, 40 years?
35 years. We're going to be in business for a while until something drastic changes. So we're ready to be there, but we can't have the line grow longer and longer. We got to figure out how to help people get out of line. And no one wants to go to a food pantry. Let's just be honest.
I cannot imagine I grew up in an era where I guess I would feel shame. I don't know if people feel shame about anything, but I would feel embarrassed or shame or, not happy that I'm having to go ask for assistance. I don't know why. It's there if you need it. I don't mind getting other sorts of support, Social Security or other sorts of things, but that would seem to be a very humbling experience to have to go ask for food.
It is. And actually, further down the road, as we get back together, we're going to bring some of our clients together to talk about what does it feel like to do this work and where they are. Not to publicize how we help them be successful, but to kind of go deeper into the experiences that people have. But also, how do we help people move out of this space? So on the workforce development for us, it is, help you get a job is something that a lot of organizations already do.
Right.
But help you get a better job and a more high-paying job, that's the difference for us.
Okay.
So what we want to do is we want to take those who want to elevate their skills, want to grow their experiences around work, and the changing role of work. So when you think about the changing role of work, we're talking about not just working at a grocery store or not working at some other place, but working at a like a warehouse. And
Right.
how do you manage that? So we want to teach people those logistic skills because that's what we do on a daily basis.
All right. Well, I look forward to hearing all of these topics and more as we move forward on this new show, Around the Table. I love the image of gathering people around the table and talking. Do we talk enough about these things, or do we just tell people this is what you got to do and do this? So many charities come in and say, I've got an answer. We tackle one little part of the puzzle, food, homelessness, or whatever. You're trying to do a collective approach that would seem to be more of a conversation.
It was going to be quite a conversation, and the only place to have it is around the table.
That's it. All right. One of the things we're encouraging you to do is throw in some fun questions at the end here. I'll start with you. You'll ask the questions that you're going to ask everybody here. Who influences you? This is our rapid fire round here.
Who influences me? Today, it's my youngest daughter.
How old is she?
She's 21.
Okay.
She influences me. She's got it. Like, she's been listening. She learned. My other two daughters are also the same. But she listens. She's learned. She's moving forward. She's community-minded. She's loving in the space that she's in, but she's also a tenacious brewer who likes to win.
She's influencing you. Okay. All right. The turning it around. Does she know that she's influencing
She knows
you?
now.
Okay. And then favorite food can be from your childhood or today or whatever.
Oh, yeah. My favorite food from my childhood, my grandmother, who passed away at the beginning of COVID in 2020, used to make a delicious macaroni and cheese.
I'm from the Midwest. That was our staple go-to food.
Yeah, but did you have collard greens alongside of them? Yeah,
no.
see, that's where you missed out, brother. You missed out on those.
All right. And I'm curious of this last question. Who would you like to sit around the table? Because now you got a table. You got a forum. So who will we expect to see, and who would you like to see?
You can expect to see some of our community leaders who help us do this work. You're going to hear from people who are involved in homelessness, who are involved in food programming, who are involved in counseling, who are involved in poverty work, who make this work happen for us.
Are these churches? Are these social
they're business
agencies?
partners.
Are they big companies?
Some of them are. Some of them are. I think we're probably going to have Bill Bracken from Bracken's Kitchen.
Oh, he's wonderful.
Yeah,
up here somewhere.
You always have the hat. And I see you got a Charles Antis hat up there. We won't be bringing Charles in today because
another real community, a guy who's really made a passion. He does roofing. And for, I think, apartment buildings and stuff here, and has made a commitment that years ago, I'm going to change the purpose and mission of our company, not just to make roofs, but to house people.
Yeah, he believes in keeping people dry. So when you think about his work in apartments, well, that's the type of people who come in our place. And if they have an apartment that has a leaky roof, they have no control over that.
Yeah, right.
So, that could be displaced people. So we're going to see maybe some church leaders. We're going to see maybe some business leaders. We're going to bring people who help explain the work that we do and put some context to hunger and homelessness.
And I'm going to challenge you. Can we ever meet some of the people who are affected by this? We always talk about them, but we rarely talk with them. Those in struggle.
That's an interesting question. We don't typically bring our clients in front of others because we don't want to re-traumatize them.
Yeah, clearly.
But I think that you bring a good point. The opportunity to tell the story, not from a client A came into our doors and then the South County Outreach put their cape on and saved the day.
Yeah, right.
And now look at them. They are better off because of us.
Ta-da.
Yeah. How about the conversation about what happened before then and what they had to do in order to make this work? Because
and the ongoing struggle that many of them still face. This isn't just a once poof, we fixed it and on to the next year, like you said.
Right. It takes a lot of work. It takes a long time. So we hope to see people that are interesting and create the story and round it out.
All right. Well, we've got a round table with that in mind. There is no head of the table. It's everybody's got the same equal space at the table here, and I picture it like in our logo there, kind of a kitchen table. This isn't a business round table. This is the kind of real conversation that my parents had when I was little, times when they struggled. I've had times when I've struggled. You sit around the kitchen table and you say, what are we going to do? How are we going to get through this?
Yeah, you're going to actually hear the kitchen table conversations today.
Yeah. All right, good. Well, thank you, LaVal.
LaVal.
Why do I want to say it otherwise here? LaVal Brewer. Thank you so much for coming in, the CEO of one of the most interesting and powerful and effective organizations I know of here at South Orange County, South County Outreach. Thanks for joining us, and I look forward to having you join us again and again as we continue this conversation around the table.
Thanks a lot.
Well, there you have it. Thanks for listening. Hope you had a good time and that you and your friends will join us next time as we gather around the table to continue to talk and explore the intersection of food, people, and culture. Right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.